The painting arrived without warning. A thick envelope, heavy with the scent of aged paper, was left on my doorstep. Inside was an unsigned note that read, "To know him is to see him. The truth is yours, should you dare to look." Beneath the note was the canvas, wrapped in brittle parchment. It felt wrong in my hands, its weight oppressive despite its modest size. I should have burned it. It began with an innocent curiosity, the kind that lures fools into darkness. I unwrapped the painting in the dim light of my study, my fingers trembling with anticipation. What I saw chilled me to my core. The portrait was crude yet mesmerizing, a chaotic amalgamation of light and shadow that seemed to shift as I stared. It depicted a figure, or the suggestion of one. Its face was indistinct, a smear of shapes that refused to settle into a single form. Its eyes, however, were unmistakable. Dark, infinite voids that seemed to pierce through my very being. I couldn't look away. At first I felt nothing but unease, yet as the minutes stretched into hours, an inexplicable pull rooted me in place. The longer I stared, the more the figure seemed to change. Its outline flickered, sometimes appearing human, other times monstrous. The eyes, though, remained constant, anchoring me in a state of mounting dread. When I finally tore myself away, my head throbbed and my vision swam. The clock on the wall showed it was well past midnight, though it had felt like mere moments. I stumbled to bed, my mind racing with unanswered questions. That night I dreamt of the figure. It stood in a vast, featureless expanse, its silhouette radiating an unnatural light. It spoke without words, its thoughts invading my mind like whispers through cracked glass. "You looked. Now you must see." I awoke in a cold sweat, the words echoing in my skull. The painting was waiting for me in the study, propped against the wall where I had left it. It seemed brighter now, its colors more vivid, as though it had absorbed something from my gaze. Over the next few days, the painting became an obsession. I tried to avoid it, but its presence loomed large, a dark gravity that pulled at the edges of my sanity. The figure in the portrait began to haunt my waking hours, appearing in fleeting glimpses. A reflection in a window, a shadow in the corner of my eye. The whispers started soon after. At first they were faint, barely audible murmurs that I could dismiss as tricks of the mind. But they grew louder, more insistent, until they became a constant undercurrent to my every thought. They spoke in fragmented phrases, riddles that hinted at truths too vast and terrible to comprehend. Also, the face of God is not for mortals to behold. To see is to unravel. You are chosen. Sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. Each time I closed my eyes, I was pulled back into the same dreamscape, the figure's presence overwhelming and inescapable. My body weakened, my mind frayed, but still I couldn't bring myself to destroy the painting. Something, whether curiosity or madness, compelled me to keep it. It wasn't long before others began to notice the change in me. Friends and colleagues commented on my gaunt appearance, my distracted demeanor. I lied, blaming overwork and stress, but I could see the concern in their eyes. They couldn't understand. How could they? The truth was mine alone. One evening, a close friend, Marcus, came to visit. He had always been skeptical of the supernatural, his worldview rooted firmly in logic and reason. When he saw the painting, his expression shifted from curiosity to unease. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his voice tinged with something I hadn't heard before. Fear. "It was left for me," I replied. "I don't know who sent it." Marcus stared at the portrait for a long moment, his face pale. "You need to get rid of it. Whatever this is, it's not right." I laughed bitterly. "You think I haven't tried? It won't let me." He looked at me as though I were insane, and perhaps I was. Before he left, he urged me once more to destroy the painting. I promised I would, knowing full well I couldn't. That night, the whispers turned to screams. They clawed at my mind, their words incomprehensible, but filled with malice. I clutched my head, begging for silence, but the noise only grew louder. The figure in the portrait seemed to writhe, its form becoming more distinct. Its eyes burned with a terrible light, and for the first time I thought I saw its face. I screamed. When I awoke, I was lying on the floor of the study, the painting looming above me. My body ached and my throat was raw, as though I had been screaming for hours. The whispers had subsided, replaced by an oppressive silence that was somehow worse. The figure's face was still indistinct, but its outline was sharper, more defined. Its presence felt heavier, as though it were no longer confined to the canvas. I felt its gaze on me even when I wasn't looking. Desperation drove me to seek answers. I scoured libraries and archives, searching for any mention of the painting or its origins. What I found only deepened my dread. The portrait was ancient, its origins shrouded in mystery. It had appeared throughout history, leaving madness and death in its wake. Each owner claimed to see something different in the figure's face, a reflection of their deepest fears and desires. Some believed it was a window to the divine, others a curse from the devil himself. All agreed on one thing: to gaze upon it was to invite ruin. The last known owner had vanished without a trace, leaving only the painting behind. It seemed to choose its victims, appearing when least expected and refusing to be discarded. It was a parasite, feeding on the minds of those who dared to look. I began to lose time. Hours, sometimes entire days, would pass in a blur, my memories fragmented and unreliable. The whispers returned, more coherent now, their tone almost pleading. You must finish it. See it through. Become whole. I didn't understand what they wanted from me, but the compulsion to obey was overwhelming. My hands moved on their own, sketching and painting with a skill I didn't possess. The canvas came alive under my touch, the figure's form growing clearer with each stroke. Its face began to emerge piece by piece. Each detail filled me with a terror I couldn't describe, yet I couldn't stop. I worked tirelessly, my body wasting away as the figure in the painting became more real. When I finally stepped back to admire my work, I saw the truth. The figure's face was my own. The realization shattered me. I fell to my knees sobbing as the painting seemed to pulse with life. The whispers turned to laughter, mocking and cruel. The figure stepped out of the canvas, its movements fluid and unnatural. It loomed over me, its eyes, my eyes, burning with an otherworldly light. You looked, it said, its voice a perfect echo of my own. Now you see. Darkness engulfed me, and for a moment, there was nothing. Then I awoke, but I was no longer myself. The painting was gone, and so was my reflection. My body moved without my control, my mind a passenger in a vessel I no longer commanded. I am trapped now, a prisoner in my own flesh, while the thing that wears my face continues its work. It has sent the painting to another, its cycle of torment beginning anew. I can only hope that the next victim is stronger than I was, though I know it is a futile wish. The portrait of God is not a blessing. It is a curse, a window to truths too vast and terrible for mortal minds. And once you see, you can never look away.